Good morning. This is Perry Wilkey with Major League Trading. It is 8:16 a.m. Eastern Time on Monday, April 1st, April Fool's Day. So let's look and see what just refresh the end of last week here with Friday's session. So as we go through the overnight session, coming down off these 2791 75s from Wednesday, coming to Thursday, chopped up and down, and really kind of chopping up higher, right? And then as we come into Friday, can't get into the value area, really can't really get into the previous day's session at all, and kind of chop around for the first couple hours into the European close, and then end up chopping up around and closing up near the highs. Right at got up to that 28.40 half that we're looking at. If we look at all the indexes, we can see that they're all bullish, right? They're all making action above the previous day's value area. And notice where the Nasdaq came down to in the session. It came down to right to value area high to the tick, and then lifted back up again. So this is really telling you, when you're above it, this should be where shorts need to cover again when you touch it. And when you're below it, that's when longs, start selling again when you're below it, if you're going to have anything going. So that's why we mark the value areas. This is the, picture perfect reaction we're looking for. This doesn't always take place, but when it does, you should note it. You can see, just how the Russell, dipping into it and getting right back out. So every time it got back into it, these shorts just are covering to get their money back, right? So looking at the initial balance study, excuse me, I actually found the mute button that time. You guys should be proud of me. So looking at the initial balance study, we can see that the Russell touched the initial balance third target down below. Uh, the triplets all hit their first bull target above for the session, and the Russell never got, up or back above the initial balance high for the day. Little traction for these, but this is where they're ending the session. Looking at the bell to bell fibs and the internals, we can see that there wasn't really much pressure on either side, right? A little bit of selling pressure in the morning, uh, late afternoon. And I will remind you guys that, a lot of what we do is pattern recognition. For the last 3 weeks, the Euros have been leaving the session at 12:30 Eastern time. So they've been with us over here in America for the first 3 hours of the trading day. Well, they had their clocks change over the weekends, so now they'll only be with us the first 2 hours. So look for the squeeze action to be between 11:10 and 11:30 each day instead of 12:10 to 12:30, which it has been the last 3 weeks. So that's going to be their closing time. Uh, you can see on here, the a little choppy going through, then the bulls kind of get some footing going into the close, and you can see the bears getting their hopes reset. Right, you can see targets being made, babies being kissed by the bulls. They're back in town. Very similar picture for the Nasdaq. Very light selling pressure at the end of the morning session, and that was it. Looking at the longer term draw, we're going to zoom into this in a minute, but we did come up near this 42 quarter, and on the daily chart, there's a big shelf just like on this on the contract chart. I'm sorry, right at 27 40 half. Looking at the Dow, plus 211 close to close, plus 61 open to close. Got a few winners and losers from the open, right? But only one loser from the close, and that was 3M. And they were just modestly down, right? They were down 36 cents on a $207 stock, so that was insignificant. Boeing up 47 Dow points, getting closer to that $400 marker I think Eric was talking about that he's looking to see if it can get back up to. Looking at the profile, you can see the gold line is where we close the session, and really just getting there. So Uh, Sorry, I'm just looking at some other statistics here. All right. So I think there's a fat finger on toss this morning. 74.10 half. This has been driving me nuts all morning. So 74.10 half is probably where future settled around. Uh, and if we look at it, we'll see. But their toss is off this morning from the settlement to the open, and we'll go over that in a second. So looking at the extended or the overnight session coming into this morning, the range is 16 and 3/4 points, and you can see right now it says we're up 20.5. So a gap up right out of the gate last night, and just has been flagging sideways, basically under R3, which is 2861.75, just sitting up there, flagging. So very bullish session, very difficult for the Bears to get anything going. And this is what I was talking about. So the settlement mark from toss on Friday was 7400.5, and we're up at 473. The difference between those markers, right? Just basically between 7400 and 7430. You're looking at basically 73 points. Toss says you're up 61. Right? So the settlement had to be, you know, basically if you just subtract these two, the settlement's actually, closer to 74.13, 74.12 half, right in there is where the settlement was. So the settlement marker's off today for the Nasdaq, and I haven't checked the rest of them in that detail to see, but I think Toss is having some issues with their between Friday and Monday. So keep that in mind when you're looking at the markers today. But regardless, we can definitely tell the value area is marked correctly on here. So we have value on the Russell at 1548.30. The previous session high is correct. It's just really the settlements off, and the settlements actually drive these floor trader levels. So the white lines are going to be off today, at least for the Nasdaq. So I'll repost up here in a little while after I get it done this morning. I'll post a new grid so the floor trader levels will update. The rest of the lines are going to be correct on here. And like I said, that's just a glitch with toss. So as we look at this in the overnight session, there's nothing to say but overnight action is extremely bullish. And if we look, we have 184,000 contracts, which is really nothing to sneeze at. We do have Red Star News retail sales coming out in 5 minutes. I'll just remind you of that if you're in anything, that it is a Red Star event coming out in 5 minutes. So let's go ahead and look at the longer term chart here. So I'm going to just zoom into this area of the chart. So this is where we got up to last week, right? Flushed down. We've been really fighting this 2820 area, give or take. Now we've really come back right under the shelf of the profile here at 2842.25. I'm going to put a line here, make this a little bit more important now. And if we're going to be aggressive, right, this is the line that's really going to need to hold in and around. And I would actually take this as we look at the daily chart right down to 2840 half, right? That's where the same level lines up on the contract chart. And then getting really up to 2864 is the next level. And this is kind of loose, right? What really should happen now the rest of this week is we kind of backfill in this area, right? So all the way down between this 2840 area and this 2883, this is where we should kind of back and fill this week. It's going to be extremely aggressive if we start making traction later this week above 2883, right? And this is going to be that slow churn resistance that we always talk about, right? You got the profile that looks like this. That is slow churn resistance going above, choppy two-way tape up in here. We could get a little stopping point at basically 2900, which would be normal, right? So let's go on and look at the contract levels on the chart. So this is what we were fighting with last week, right? We come up to the 2866s, we sold off, we got down to these 2790s, kind of chopped around back in here. We chopped around in this meaty part of the profile. So really this is the resistance we were trying to get above, right? This is where traders felt comfortable, was down between this, below this 2840 half. You can see the ledge here on the profile. So if the bulls have anything going for them, we will not trade below 2840 half this week, right? If that's what's going on here. And then you can see where we started selling from before up here is right at 2862, basically, as we're coming across. So 2862 to 2866 is really going to be an area of resistance on the chart to watch. And we're not too far from that area right now. So this is going to be a support resistance band. It's 4 points wide. This is what we're going to have to churn through. And obviously getting above 2866, the bears are just going to hate life once again. This is a big move up in the overnight session, right below this resistance. To be honest with you, we could just sit here and chop around most of the day and not do a whole lot and spend the day, basically between under this resistance zone. So we'll call it 64 down to basically 52 is one of the levels I'd be watching. I'll do it this way. Or we could churn all the way down into 46. I don't think that we're going to take out the gap open today. I don't think we'll get a retest of this 2840 half. This will be an area of the chart that I'm going to go in with size if we trade it in the next few sessions with a tight stop. So this is going to be an oversized trade for me if we trade down basically to 2841 to 2841 half is where I'll go in. And my stop will be probably right around 37. And hopefully we'll see something line up. We just had retail sales come out, so let's check on the charts and see if that had any impact on anything. Uh, really nothing to speak of at this point. All right, so we'll see. We need a little bit of a stop run, right? We need to get back a little bit lower. So let's go ahead and look at the NASDAQ now. Okay, the NASDAQ is really holding this area of the chart that we were talking about last week, right? This is its next spot of resistance that we had identified. 74.58 half to 74.65 half. You've got above it now. So really, this is what should hold if it's going to be, bullish today. Should be this 74 or 58 half is what should really hold now. Getting back below there, you're just going to be back into this zone. But what I'm really looking for is that this zone will hold, and we'll just start making progress in here today. And what we should always do is, like I said, I'm going to update the charts. We'll be able to see the level fours later. The settlement isn't right for the Nasdaq, so we can't trust the floor trader pivots that are shown that I'm sharing right now. So I'll adjust that. I'll adjust the ES level sheet in a little while here, and we'll get going on that. So for the Dow really doesn't have any critical spots that are similar that we're looking at on the chart, right? So just stay with the markers that we have right now, and we're going to move this lower marker up to 25,961. We're just going to line it up with this shelf on the profile. So that was really Friday's high. So you'll have it on the profile charts. You got the same gap up here. See the Dow is a little bit ahead of everyone else. So we'll have to watch and see how it reacts, right? So the Dow is already, near the top of its slow term resistance. There's nothing on this contract, right? This is contract high that we're trading at pretty much now. So let's go ahead, since we don't have any markers above for the Dow, let's go ahead and look at that longer term chart, see if we can pull anything out on it. So right at 26,297, just under 26,300 is really an area I'm looking at. And you can see where this profile is changing shape. We're going to zoom in over here, right? This whole little area is that slow term resistance again. So basically, you want to see the Dow hold the rest of this week. Right at 25,900 is what you want to see if you're bullish. If you're bearish, you want to see that level get lost. But this whole area between 25,900 basically and 26,300, those 400 points, it's got a little bit of resistance in there, as it should at this area on the chart. And then we get into this node up here that really runs from 26,361 to 26,836 is really where that level lies. So if we're going to be bullish, right, we're going to get into this section of the chart this week. But this is going to be a lot to blow through, and you can see this. These are daily candles over here. Don't expect this to happen, right? This is going to be an extreme bullish case. What's more than likely to happen is we start slowing down under this on a normal tape. So this is the area that we'd start getting congestion in, and that lower level is going to be, basically 26,240. Looking at the Russell, you can see it's the farthest behind, right? It hasn't even got anywhere near the contract high yet, but it is breaking up above and holding into this zone. So we're going to zoom in over here and just mark these valleys on the chart. And that's really coming in right at overnight high. So right around 1556.20, above there, it's a little bit sloppy trading, but you've got price action that could lead up to 62.20. And then you really are going to, this is what is going to be a bigger deal getting over. You get over the 1564.20, and it's going to be a little bit bigger of a deal to hold. And then you're going to get that same area of the chart that we're in for the other indexes right now, where you've got that overhead resistance. And that's going to come in all the way up to 1571. Right around there. Maybe really 1570. Let's check out gold and crude real quick. So crude again is at this area of the chart. We don't see anything, right? We're at contract high, so we're going to have to go to the continuous contract to pull out some levels for it. So crude's right at that area that we were talking about. Nice. So crude is right at that area of the chart that we were talking about last week. Between 60.83 and 61.18, that you're starting to change, levels. So as you bled into this, don't think that we're just going to fly over it the first time, although it's possible. But what you want to see, if you're, extremely bullish of crude, is you want to see it cross over 61.18 and then never cross back under 60.83. And then really you can put that never cross back underline down to 60.39. I'm not going to change it on here, but really you don't want to get back below and maybe even all the way down to 60, right around the shelf of this. So this is where we're trading right now. I think we'll start to fill in some of this price action in this valley. And it's going to be a little bit of chop back and forth probably. I think the easy money to get up to this zone has been already made. You could look for some sequences in there. And GC is on the June. So gold has had, that run down. It's come back down into this. This is a new contract that we're trading. So I wouldn't put too much weight into it breaking down farther. Uh, Basically, it's come down here and it's formed support, right? The opposite of that resistance that we're looking at on the other charts. This is a base. It's above the base. Now it's bleeding through this resistance. So we'll see if it can get back through it. But it could be a little bit choppy in here. To be honest with you, I think the next trade is uh, just sitting there and patiently seeing, if it can hold up above this distribution. So you could get in the next sequence after it breaks up again, because it's likely to almost, when you have a base, right, it's going to come back down and it's going to check a little bit lower. So let it build back up again, and then probably, if you're bullish, right around 1298.40, give or take a few cents or a few ticks, is going to be really around the entry point. And if it really spikes up high, that level is going to turn into just a little bit above where we are right now, right around 1300. So let's go back and look at the profile charts for the day. Like I said, I'm going to update the NASDAQ grid for the settlement. It'll change the floor trader levels. I'll post that up in the trade plan after I get that done. This settlement is not right on here. I'm going to double check the other three settlements to see if they were correct as well. But the rest of the markers are on here, right? It's just settlement, and it's the white lines that are in question that I'll be checking. And as we go through and look at this, right, it's these levels that we want to watch. It's the value area, which is well below us, right? They're all well above value area high. We had a little bit of flush on the retail sales, couldn't really get out of it. And remember, at 10 o'clock, there's going to be some red star event too that could, possibly change the tone. After 10:30 or after 10 o'clock, there's really nothing newsworthy that's going to be a big impact other than an unscheduled news headline that crosses, right? There's no scheduled news that's really going to be impactful after 10 o'clock today. All right. If anyone has anything you'd like me to look at or discuss real quick, I can do that. I got another minute or so before I need to clear for Eric to get ready for the show. Uh, but like I said, I will be posting updated levels for the on this grid and on the sheet for the Nasdaq, and I'm going to double check the other ones to make sure the settlement was correct from Friday from TOS. The ES looks correct. The Dow looks correct. And the Russell looks correct. So it's just the Nasdaq that's off. All right, that's going to do it for me, you guys. I'll get an updated grid out here for the NASDAQ. It won't take me about maybe 5 minutes or so. But look for that. I'll post that before 9 o'clock. You guys have a great day. And with these large gap ups, right, it's don't look for too much too quick. You're going to have smaller targets up here. I wouldn't look for much of a flop down, to be honest with you. I think that, you're really looking at something that's going to hold for the ES, just looking at the chart. I really doubt if we trade back below basically R2 by more than a few minutes or a few contracts. If we do, you start making traction below R2, and then you're just looking to see if you can hold Friday's high, basically, if you're bullish. You start getting back into Friday's range, and things get a lot sloppier and a lot uglier for the bulls. But I would not look for that to happen. You guys have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.